Brought to you by Narrative Niche. Created and produced by Twisted Wicked Animations. Written by Jason Douglas Kurtz. Maddox in No Pardon. The air in the end was thick with the metallic tang of fear and rust. It wasn't a prison, it was a processing plant for despair, and the foreman was Warden Reginald Maddox. They called him the architect, not for any building he constructed, but for the intricate, horrifying systems of suffering he designed. Maddox was a man of precise cruelty. His suits were bespoke, his shoes polished to a mirror shine, and his smile was a surgical incision. He walked the catwalks above the general population, a predator surveying his stock. Below, men lived in a purgatory of his making. A misstep in the food line meant a week in the hole, a sensory deprivation coffin. An insolent look could get you transferred to the cage, a steel box in the yard that baked in the summer sun, froze in the winter wind, and was beaten constantly by inmates on recess. The prisoners knew that death row, with its 3 square meals and a final appeal, was a luxury resort compared to the daily grind of life in his domain. Maddox's power, however, flowed from a source darker than state-sanctioned authority. On the hill overlooking the prison, a Gothic monstrosity loomed, the Cryptic Castle. It was an old-world fortress, all sharp spires and weeping stone gargoyles, and it was the nexus of a vast, illegal network. From its shadowed halls, Maddox orchestrated a symphony of crime, gun-running, drug trafficking, and human cargo, all funneled through the prison's untouchable infrastructure. The castle was his patron, and the end was his workshop. His army of guards, the Sentinels, were chosen not for their integrity, but for their absence of it. They were recruited from the castle's own private security, sadists and sociopaths who saw the prisoners as playthings. Their uniforms were black, their batons were weighted, and their loyalty was to Maddox's wallet, not the law. They had a locker room game where they'd bet on how long a new inmate would last before breaking. It was a place where mercy was a forgotten language. The latest arrival was a man named Elias, a former accountant who had stumbled upon the castle's money trail. He wasn't a criminal in the traditional sense. He was a liability. Maddox knew this. Maddox didn't need a trial. He had a cell. He didn't need a confession. He had his Sentinels. He took a personal interest in Elias, not for information, but for the pure, perverse pleasure of dismantling a man who had threatened his empire. Over the following weeks, Elias was subjected to a regime of orchestrated chaos. His cell would be flooded one night, then left freezing the next. His food was laced with sedatives, leaving him groggy and vulnerable. The Sentinels would conduct shakedowns that left his tiny space a ruin. They were trying to kill his soul before his body. One evening, Maddox descended to Elias's cell block. The prisoners pressed themselves against the walls, trying to become invisible. He stopped at Elias's door, the clink of his keys a death knell. "You see," Maddox whispered through the bars, his voice smooth as poisoned honey. "In here, death is a gift, but I don't give gifts. I give lessons." He gestured to the prison around them. "This isn't the end of the road. This is the end, period. You don't leave the end, you just stop." He walked away, and Elias knew he was right. The castle on the hill was his throne, the prison was his kingdom, and for the men within its walls, there was no hope of a king's pardon. There was only Maddox, and the end. The end. Collect the trading cards. Just go to narrativeniche.com. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.